Okay, this is going to be an overview of my WordPress portfolio project on my local machine. I guess the best way to start this off would be just straight from the get-go. Now, a little background. I did install this in Linux, and as such, there were a few difficulties or challenges, I guess you could call them. So the first one, now if we just go to the local host, we'll get a nice confirmation that Apache is up and running. Now we just go ahead and go to the WordPress, and let's do this. And just to make things easier, this layout should allow us to talk about the happenings underneath the hood of the site, so to speak, and then, of course, how it looks to the general public. First, I just want to cover the copyright down here in the footer. Now, in Linux, this was not as easy as perhaps it was for other people. If I go to the editor here in mine and just find the footer. This was a lot easier earlier when I wasn't speaking at the same time. Okay, there, and here it is. And the problem is this file needs to be writable before I can do anything. So what I did is go all the way up to the top level, and I chose to open as root, basically administrator. And I know where all the files that are needed for this site are located. Here you can see we're in the HTML. Now we're in the WordPress. And WP content, themes. Now the next is the theme I'm using, so all I did was go in here, footer, and I chose to open with my text editor. It's gedit. I don't know why it continues to come up as text editor. That's kind of a Mint Linux eccentricity, if you will. And then I simply went down and I found the piece of code here that would change that and put in what was necessary. So it was quite a bit of a different way of going about things than maybe most people had. But it worked. And that is, I'll also mention that in order to add media, that was also a rather, basically I had to change the file permissions for my upload folder, which was pretty simple. It just went like this: chmod 777. That just means, we're changing the who can modify the file. 777, that is your different attributes, writing, reading, etc. And I simply chose the uploads folder when I was in that directory. Oops, and I'm having all kinds of trouble typing apparently. That's that. I also managed to start Firefox in the I don't see it here, but I did have to start Firefox as well. Well, there's all my work right there, actually. Yeah, uploads, and then anyway, we that got fixed up, straightened out, and this is where I had to start Firefox in the super user mode as well, in order to edit things as needed within that folder. Within all the WordPress folder. And as you can see, the site's pretty simple. This is, of course, the logo image for the site. It's a publicly usable image I found. I thought it was pretty cool. Of course, information at the top here, email address. I always, when I choose to give an email address to an employer or someone of that nature, I like to use a more professional sounding one, perhaps than like a personal email address. You don't want to give an employer like sweetiebutt997 at gmail.com. Not that that's mine, and it's not. But I always choose to give them this. The WKU email seems to be a little more formal to me. That's where I do a lot of my business. So that's why that is there. Of course, we got our copyright here, name. And just 4 main categories here. Education, of course. I earned my Associates of Applied Science in Information Technology at Elizabethtown Community and Technical College, and of course I'm continuing with Western, majoring in Computer Information Technology. Fairly simple and straightforward. Skills, it's taken straight from my resume. It's pretty much a bulleted list, and these are pretty simple. All of these are fairly simple and straightforward. I just kind of wanted to get kind of a skeletal structure and a little bit of meat on the bones, and then later on, if I decide I want to do this a little bit differently or want to add some things to it, it's entirely possible, very easily. Projects, links to YouTube videos I've made and videos for school. And here it is.
Okay, and in this video is going to be just...
Okay, that was a little bit too much for the software to handle at this point in time. A lot going on here. And then the last video I did, of course, for the CSS, the style sheet assignment. And of course, there's more. I could always add more projects. Experience, of course, directly from my resume. Now, there's a few things here I did differently as far as the code. You can see I like how you still have a nice permanent way to get around the site up here. But I went ahead and added some spaces and some horizontal rules or horizontal lines. And to do that, I simply went to pages. Everything's kind of done in a page format on this site. Every category has a different page, and those categories open up within that framework there. Which, I find it, that's one thing WordPress maybe makes a little bit easier. I don't know. I mean, it would be real simple just to maybe make the location on an object like this, or an element, I should say, in HTML. It would be easy to make that persistent too the whole time. But I guess WordPress does make that easier for me. I generally prefer to do my own HTML and CSS, but I have to admit they do help a person create a very polished, good-looking final product. But anyway, what I did with this is I just went to my experience, and rather than doing the visual, I did a text, and all I did was add the horizontal rule right there. Although I noticed it does change the code. I didn't have the slash or a space in there. It was just HR. That's the way I learned to do it from the very get-go. But as you can see, it does work very well. And it helps break up this page some. Because before it was very much difficult for the eye to manage. Now this is dates, locations, and of course the duties of the title and the duties. Very straightforward stuff here. Let me see if there's something else I would like to cover here. Of course, the main home you saw, always accessible by clicking the logo image. Your purpose statement. They're more than welcome to download the resume. Of course, I'm sure that would change if it was a live site. Education we've covered, projects. And like I said, this is a kind of a beginning. So as perhaps my skills and experience increase, so too will the website. Also, it's worth covering the CSS that I've added into this. And it's very simple, really, to edit CSS. And that's not what I meant to do. Customize. That's all. Alright. We'll just take this from here. It's very simple to add a style sheet. And like in the last video for the assignment, I'll just split this up the way I had it before it was jammed together by WordPress. I simply added in text that would, or CSS that would change the body color of all the pages to a gray background, just a simple gray, with white text. Of course, sometimes when I go back, this happens. That's not the way it appears here, of course. No matter where I go here, always white, always Arial or sans serif. Pretty simple but good looking. I found that, generally speaking, the key to a website that people don't mind coming back to, that they find visually acceptable, is simplicity and cleanliness. And this definitely carries both of those ideas forward. I'm very big on simple and clean. And just to cover that last bit, I also changed the text in the paragraphs to reflect these styles that I like a little bit more in a larger font size medium. And I noticed at the beginning that the links weren't underlined. Now, sometimes that's alright and sometimes that works, but in the case of maybe my purpose page here, the very first page you come to, if I didn't have that, it would be, unless they happen to accidentally roll over it, they would not have known that that was a link. So certainly want to make that a link, let people get to it. Same with the mail link there. They can click that and their mail client will take right over. And nothing was changed, so I would rather leave that be. Very happy with the product I've got here, the final product. I think it's attractive without being over the top. I might do something a little different with the skills page at some point, and maybe even add some more to it. But definitely, I might change the bulleting. I don't know. Right now that's pretty simple and straightforward and I like it, but who knows in the future. So, let's make sure there's nothing else that I need to address. I think we've pretty much got it all together now. And I'm pretty proud of what I've done here. Especially, I'm very proud that I've completed this and done it in Linux, because this is what I use all the time anyway. I mean, unless it's something I absolutely must reboot and boot into Windows for, I generally like to use Linux and just hosting a site. And the fact that Apache is generally what people use to host websites, doing it in Linux, of course, makes it that much easier for me. So I'm pretty proud of what I've managed here. Hope you enjoy, and thank you very much.